Well, if you're going to try to improve your sales process, one that's already effective, it starts with knowing your numbers. It starts with data collection. You need to know your number of leads in. You need to know your appointment rate. You need to know your sit rate. You need to know your close rate. You need to know your average case size, because those things will point out what areas of your process are weak. Today,
Why do you sound so formal?
Why do I sound so formal?
Yeah, you sound so stoic and professory.
I don't know.
I'm probably using a word that doesn't even exist, explaining professory.
I try to enunciate well on these things because in my normal vernacular, I'm not a particularly good enunciator.
Can't understand your accent half the time, and I've known you for many years. So,
it takes effort.
This is Caleb North. I'm Chad Owen. This is the first time I've ever introduced you first because I just feel like doing that today. Yeah. You're a good guy. People like you. You're smart. Oh, if you go back to you're good enough, you're smart enough, and people like you. You don't know where that's off of, do you?
I don't.
Anybody over the age of 45 would probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and people like me. So Stuart Smalley, words of words. Wow. When our producer sneezes, I love it. It's okay. This is why we're live, but you probably won't hear him. So I agree with you. Let's go.
Let's jump into it. So, tips for improving an already working sales process. These are things you can do right now if you're already selling annuities and you want to keep your sales process mostly as is, but still refine it a little bit. Another note is if you're new and you're like, well, Caleb, I don't have a sales process, that's okay. Take note of these things because these are things that can be used in the future once you do.
And go to Retirement Reliance Agents Academy and sign up so you can get the sales process. We have all that. And
That's right.
You know, I go back to, I've said this so many times. I've taken one draw off this company in 6 years. No income, right?
That's true.
One draw. So this isn't me trying to make a whole bunch of money because one draw is not a whole bunch of money. I'm doing this because I really want agents to be fully educated so their lifestyle can impact other people's life. Because when I look at what we can do when we do this right, number one, our industry doesn't get a bad name. That's number one. Because if our industry has a bad name, we can never help people the way we want to help them. That's just a fact. So make sure you go to Retirement Relays. It's www.rragentsacademy, plural, agentsacademy.com, and sign up for something. Pick whatever one that makes sense for you, but do something. Because if you wait and you wait, it's kind of like that person that just always wanted and always wished but never did.
Right.
And you don't want to be that. And I say it with passion and conviction because, once again, this is not about money. This is about helping people. This is why I do this. No. But if you don't take that step, you're never going to get any farther. And then you're always going to go, I want to be the one that writes 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. Some of you are just saying, I want to write one annuity, and that's fine. You've got to start somewhere.
Got to start.
But now I'm sitting there, if I have if I write less than $1 million a week, and when I'm running appointments, it really bothers me. I remember when I was happy with $50,000 a week.
Yeah. So
it's just progression, but the only way you get progression is to continually seek out wisdom and knowledge and apply it, and that's what you do when you're in the academy. So that's not a shameless plug. It's not trying to I want help.
Yeah.
So if you want to dig in, the last one we were talking about the bones of the process, and you want the meat to that, you really want to get it. Well, why don't you give it for free? Because none of this is free to make it.
Right. Well, that's true.
Right now, right now, we have at least 3 people that work on this alone. And that's not all the behind the scenes. So it costs money. I mean, it does. Camera equipment, stinking $5,000 for decent camera equipment, and then audio. So, okay, I'm done. Go ahead.
Rant over.
No, I was chasing a squirrel.
Oh, squirrel chasing.
Squirrel chasing.
Did you catch it?
I did catch it.
Good job. So we talked a little bit about leads data. You need to keep track of that. Keep track of your leads in, your appointment rate, your sit rate, your close rate, your average case size, because those will actually indicate where things are wonky.
You've got to track your numbers.
Right.
You've got to know which lead systems are working. If you have a really high lead rate, but then you have a low appointment rate as far as actually getting appointments, then you got to work on your phone script. If you have a good phone script and then you actually go to meet with someone and they don't show up, then maybe you didn't build enough urgency. If you're at the appointment and you didn't get a sale, then you got to work on your sales process. I could go on and on. You need to track your numbers.
Yeah. The low weak points of those metrics indicate the part of the process that's needs refinement.
Yep.
Specifically about calls, here's some points of improvement you can make. If they take longer than 15 minutes, work on becoming more efficient.
You know what? I got to add something up because I missed that the last one. Be sure when you're dialing, you're literally robo-dialing. And what I mean by that is if you get a call, leave a message, move right into your next one. Call, leave a message, move into your next one. Don't take 5-minute breaks in between each lead.
Yeah,
I saw someone do that. They would. I was wondering, why does it take them so long to call 10 leads? And it's because they would make the call, then they would get voicemail, they leave a message, and they would dabble on their computer a little bit. And then they would pick up the phone and do it again. I'm like by the time you got done there, I already went through 30 leads because not everybody answers. We all know that. Right. But make sure you're not. It's like I heard this before. I used to do this when I lifted weights a lot. You know, I do my weightlifting, and then I would take like a 30 second to 1 minute break in between sets when I was going real heavy. But if I wanted to destroy myself, I did supersets, and I would go from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to where by the time I was done with that 3 minutes, my arms felt like, or shoulders or whatever, felt like spaghetti.
Yeah.
To where I went to the point of fatigue. And honestly, that's how I live my life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going boom, 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 boom. I'm doing supersets every day. And when I do my calls, I realize I'm going to be tired at the end of that session. And so make sure you're not taking a whole bunch of breaks in between each call.
Yeah, that's good.
And when you get a bad call, and I'm saying this carefully because there are a couple of bad calls I've had where people are just idiots and jerks. And I literally had to get up and just walk outside and clear my head. But most of the time, I get someone who doesn't want to help, it's the shredder. I mean,
I hear that on Monday afternoons. I hear there's the shredder going. Oh, there goes another bad lead.
And you go, what if they wanted help in the future? That's why I have their email in the drip system.
Yeah, it's true.
If they want help in the future, they're going to respond to one of my drip systems. By the way, oh my gosh, this is going to be another shameless plug. But that stress and rocking chairs drip you guys have done off my book, I am another appointment. I have this other system, and I would say a 7-to-1, if not more. I'd say probably a 10-to-1. I'll get 10 appointments off of that stress and rocking chairs drip system compared to 1 from the other one.
Hey,
I'm like going, God, I need to turn this into like a radio show. Like, have you guys write scripts off of that because I don't know how you did it. I mean, you literally took things out of the book.
We derived all the content from your book, Stress and Rocking Chairs. Yeah.
So that's actually me then. Yay.
Well, we tried not to do it exactly verbatim.
No, you didn't.
It's been
you didn't.
But it's derived from it.
It is, but good job on that. Really good job on that. And I know that's probably Josh, but you know.
I do believe Josh wrote most of those, and then John built out the sequence.
Yeah, good job, John. Thank you.
Yeah,
best ever. Why you root for Dallas, I don't know, but you're the best ever.
It's America's team.
No, Boston Celtics are America's team.
Oh my gosh.
No, take it from somebody who loves Boston Celtics. He's shaking his head no. Awesome. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So if your calls are taking longer than 15 minutes, you need to work toward more efficiency. Yeah. Examine where is that time being spent. Is it being spent in frivolous conversation, rambling, over-explaining? Are you just lacking control in the conversation, and the client's the one that's actually doing all the talking for 30 minutes at a time?
Didn't we dig deeper into that 2 podcasts ago?
We talked about it, but I'm saying specifically today, if your call process, if you reflect on your own and you're looking for a point of improvement and it's taking you longer than 15 minutes to make a call, refine that. You got to get more efficient with that. Sure. If you're calling my grandmother, be prepared to speak for about 30 or 45 minutes. She'll have an hour-long conversation with the wrong number. I bet you I could
be in and off the phone in 10 minutes with your grandmother and have an appointment.
Probably.
And you have an awesome grandmother.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah. If your calls are not converting to appointments, examine what's the perceived value of the appointment. Does the client even see value in it?
Man, that's a good point. why would they even take the time to give you the time of day if they don't have a it's all
They
about
shouldn't.
the features and the benefits,
They'd
right?
be insane if they did.
Features will get you interested, but the benefit is why they'll actually meet you. That's good job.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Remember, the appointment is all you're selling on the call. You're not trying to sell the product. Okay? You're selling the appointment if they're qualified.
If they're qualified.
If they're qualified.
I was just going to add that.
Do you have hooks, right? Like little things, like things that would actually make them want to meet with you. Are you explaining what you do? Do you actually outline the next steps? This is a huge piece that goes to build trust.
Yeah.
I've noticed it in yours, and it's probably not even something you think about, Chad, but you explain what the next step is, and then you deliver. And then you explain what the next step is, and you deliver. And it's exactly what you say it's going to be every time. So subconsciously, they're like, oh, wait, this is somebody I can take at their word because they're telling me, and then they're doing the thing that they're telling me. And then are you fluid in your speech? I mean, the ums and the buts and all the fillers. Chad, that's a huge...
I hit that one
yours,
super hard with anybody I know. The one nowadays is like, I'm just going, oh my gosh, complete the sentence. One sentence without a like, please. Because the and the but is a subconscious turnoff for the other person because it makes them believe you don't know what you're talking about. And you have to be fluid. If you guys go through all my podcasts between Caleb and I'm not saying I don't say and but it's incredibly rare because I've trained myself. And how did I train myself? Recording my calls and listen to them.
Right.
Because how many times when you first got started, you said again? No, I didn't.
Oh.
You said like 15 times in the past 5 minutes, and then you would record, and you're like, wow. And then one time I actually had to take, because this guy, didn't want to listen. I'm sitting there doing hashtag, like just not hashtags.
Tally marks?
Yeah, tally marks. And I'm going, okay, I'm into the 25th one right now, and I'm about to just press hang up on the phone. But, once tracking.
Sure.
You couldn't deny that.
Right.
I'm not just making that up.
Right.
And so ums and buts, you got to get rid of it.
Yeah, that's so good. Being fluid is huge. Let's talk about appointments. Okay, so specifically in the appointment process. If they're consistently taking longer than an hour, and it's not because the client has a bunch of questions, then you need, again, look at how can I become more efficient.
45 minutes is a long appointment if they're not asking a bunch of questions.
Sure.
30 minutes is a very normal time frame if they don't have a bunch of questions. Most mine, I say the average would probably be between 45 minutes and an hour. But I welcome and I encourage the questions.
That's at the end of today's podcast. I have a note here of like things to shoot for, and that's the target that I typically recommend, because usually what that's going to be is about 20 to 30 minutes of actual education, which for an attention span, you're knocking at the door of.
What's my longest appointment ever?
Did you have a 2 hour?
Keep going.
More?
Yep. 4.5 hours.
Why?
They had more and more and more stuff we kept finding with where their money was. And they had complicated situations, variable annuities that we had to call, multiple variable annuities. We had to call and find out what the account value, surrender value, income value. I mean, we kept finding it was someone that was a $50,000 lead, or no, I'm sorry. She said she had $200,000. We ended up writing $1.8 million that day, because she said, nobody has ever found this money for me. And they just went and opened statements. They would stash it. And then they called me 2 years later and said, hey, we just found another box with stuff. And it was another $1.9 million.
That's crazy
and
to
she
me.
thought, at the time, she thought there's
around.
no way she was going to retire. The brokers kept telling her, don't worry about opening your mail. I got it for you. But they never would have communication with the broker. 4.5 hours.
That's insane.
Yeah. Oh, I was darn tired. And I mean, the reality is I got this gut feeling. Normally I make my last appointment 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, maybe a 7 o'clock, every once in a while 7:30. Right now, even at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. I've had them. But, I said, at 4, I think it was 4 o'clock, I just had this gut feeling. That's my last appointment for the day. And I got out at 8:30.
Cool.
And then I had a 2-hour drive home.
Yeah. And you don't remember that drive.
I do, because I
Do you?
opened the windows the whole time.
Just to keep awake?
It's a full night. No,
Yeah.
actually, I wasn't tired.
Okay.
I get a lot of energy by helping people.
It is.
I mean, when you have someone that they thought they couldn't retire, they've been working their tail off their entire life, and you find out that they have 1.9 million, let alone another 1.2 million,
right.
2 years later, it's very rewarding.
Yeah, that's good, man.
I get a lot of energy from that.
I love it. So all of the same things from the call, right? If your calls are taking too much time and you're looking at, okay, am I rambling? Am I over-explaining? Am I being redundant? Am I talking frivolously? Is the client controlling
Are you pulling
it?
a Caleb?
Are you doing a Caleb? That's a thing you want to mitigate. It's the same for the appointments. Ask yourself, what's happening here that's causing it to take so much time? Because realistically, it shouldn't be the education process. It shouldn't be the fact-finding process. It shouldn't be the questions and answers.
And it's not that I'm not saying rush the appointment.
That's true.
You just don't need to go into a whole bunch of the stuff that's unnecessary for the actual conversation.
Right.
You don't ever want to be rushed. I never wear a watch in an appointment. And I don't know how it is. God directs my time so crazy, because this just happened just on Thursday. I have no idea what time it is. This happens all the time. I'm telling you, every single week, multiple times a week. I don't know what time it is. I get in my truck, I punch in my next appointment, and I am there on the dot. Whether it's an hour away, hour and a half away, 10 minutes away, it just on the dot, I'm to the next appointment.
Interesting.
And I'm not even paying attention to what time it is. It's crazy. But, you don't want to rush a client, because then they feel like they're not important, and they are important.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not converting your first appointments into a second appointment, ask yourself the same question that you did on the call. What's the perceived value? What's the extra thing they're going to get by having that second appointment with you? Are you explaining the concepts of the products well, right? That would actually incline them to want to learn more or ask questions about it or proceed with purchasing. And then, are you fluid in your speech? If you're using, I just did I didn't I? I did.
You did.
A funny
I wasn't
thing
going
about
to say that. Go ahead.
So fast cadence indicates excitement and enthusiasm and knowledge, I would say, all of which are good. But a pause, like to slow it down and pause, is still better than a filler.
Agreed. You don't need to say something to have a pause. The master of that was William Shatner?
Maybe.
Yeah, he would do, "Are you ready to rumble?"
Interesting.
He never said rumble, but he was a Star Trek captain. If you don't know, watch some of the old school. God, man, these youngsters, they don't even know the good old classic Star Treks.
There's so many classic movies I've never seen.
No.
Like so many.
Okay. So it is true. And but is way worse than a pause.
Yeah.
And pauses can often be a very important time for emphasis on what's important and giving them a moment to think.
So I've watched a video about it, and that's one of the things that this gentleman was talking about, was when you pause, it gives people the opportunity to think about what you've said.
To me, the way you just paused right there, because of your body language and your facial expressions, you lost your train of thought.
So so that was a bad communication.
It was. I was watching you, and you paused, you looked up. If you look up when you're pausing, that generally means you lost your train of thought.
Interesting.
Yep. I'm telling you, got to study body language.
The psychology of body language.
So a lot of FBI agents and CIA agents, you follow how they interrogate. I just said, you follow how they interrogate, and they will watch your body language. And statistically, if you look up to the left, you're not telling the truth. If you look up to the right, you don't know. I can't remember if it's exactly that. I'm drawing a blank on that. But if you look, or if you twiddle with your fingers, or they'll know something's not right. It's kind of like a poker game. They just know how to read people when they're interrogating them. They ask questions in a way that get a particular response.
Interesting. Well, in the second appointment, if it's not converting to deals, do they see a problem or a desire? Like, do they see that they have a problem, or do they have a desire? There are instances where somebody's financial position is fantastic, and what they're purchasing, this particular product for, maybe to create some kind of desire that isn't necessarily a need? Do they have either of those? Is your solution is your solution truly the best solution, right? Because if you take out just a product that got recommended to you, you don't really know why you think it's the best.
I was told on a Monday morning meeting, this is the product we're pushing this week.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And somebody else takes out something better, you can kiss that one goodbye.
For sure.
Is it truly the best? And do they understand how your solution works? If those three things aren't taking place, meaning they don't recognize that they have a problem or that they have a desire, your solution isn't actually the best, or they don't understand how it works, that's where you get the objections. Yep. But if all three of those things are there and present, you're going to end up with people like you have frequently saying, okay, how do we move forward with this? I'd like to get this. Some things to shoot for: 10 to 15-minute calls, 45-minute appointments, closing in the second appointment, no more than 2 weeks from an inbound lead to an application. Those are like ideal scenarios. Yep. And then metrics: 50% appointment rate, 50% close rate, 250,000 or more in average case size. And if you can hit those metrics, 100 leads would lead you to $6.25 million in annuity premium, and it would be over a 10x ROI.
Beautiful.
So,
well, if that doesn't get you motivated, I don't know what will. So, hope this helps you guys. You have a great day and happy selling.